questions.
Hi there, my name is Basel Shihabi and I'm running for SRC's Vice President of Student Activities.
Okay, so you say in your manifesto that you want to provide continued and extended support necessary for society events, and then you mention grants and storage space as possible avenues for this. So how would you manage what society does or doesn't get a grant, or even how much they get?
Right, good question. So first, these processes have been going on for a very long time, and what I meant by saying that is right now through the society mixers we've been getting continuous feedback on their existing issues, such as, grants. They've been voicing issues on different things, so
What sort of issues?
so some of them they've been mentioning about they might need storage spaces in the future. Some of them were saying things like about affiliation process. Some of them were mentioning about website information. It's varied, honestly. I hope to continue to work on about that by providing the society mixers to happen once every month, and based on the feedback given, I would be hoping to work alongside these societies, figure out what's going on, how can I help them through this, and
You
what I mentioned, sorry?
You just said society mixers every month. Do you
Yes.
mean sort of university societies mixer, or specific societies can have a mixer?
No, so the idea behind the monthly mixer is that all 250 plus clubs and societies get sent out an email, and through that, we as the SRC get continuous feedback about how they feel about our services, our functions, and how we can better provide them as clubs and societies. So I hope to continue on doing that as a monthly thing, because usually clubs and societies have different needs, different issues that might come up, and so I think this is also a great idea for clubs and societies to sort of collaborate, exchange ideas, get feedback as well. So
Do you
that's how I
anticipate?
go on about it.
Would you anticipate there being any organisational issues with that, because different clubs and societies have different days that they will organise? So it's is a monthly meeting realistic? Do you think?
I'd perhaps say yes, and that would be also based on feedback. So initially I'll be sending out emails in advance and saying that, it doesn't necessarily have to be that the whole committee has to be present over there, even if it's just, a president or an office bearer just over there, present to just give their feedback, opinions, ideas, whatever. So not necessarily, but I will be giving some time in advance to make sure that clubs and societies have that data available, and then based on that, if there are any issues, I'd fix that the next month.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you mean by further streamlining the process when it comes to society events?
Absolutely.
Just a bit of elaboration on.
So
what it
this would tie on to point 3 in my manifesto,
means.
which is about, rewriting the website, making sure there is better information, things like that. I meant by that, by streamlining the process, is to, by streamlining the process, I need to make it faster, because what I hope to do is, through my manifesto point number 3, is making the information more transparent on the website, having, the club section rewritten from scratch, is for clubs and societies to have their own kind of dedicated portal. And the way I would back this up is through, there's a new database system that's hopefully going to be up to date starting this August. And this would ensure that there will be, complete database that is up to date of all societies. So that means there will be no more disaffiliated societies or societies that no longer exist on campus. And based on that, I think I can go on and further streamline some certain processes, online affiliation, online grant forms, things that clubs and societies usually struggle with doing it by hand, because sometimes you get responses very delayed, or after 2 weeks, even after months sometimes. So this is what I actually mean by streamlining the process.
Most clubs and societies at the university tend to host events totally separate of the SRC or the university itself. Why do you think that is, and what do you want to do to change that and give greater engagement between the SRC and its affiliated clubs?
So just to reiterate your question, do you just mean that clubs and societies hold events outside of the SRC, or?
Yeah. So most clubs and societies, weekly, monthly events, they tend to be sort of at a bar or a pub. They don't tend to have that much engagement with the SRC, or at least it seems that way. So what would you like to do to change that?
Well, as a start, I could hopefully certainly make use, or better use of SRC functionality, such as the Williams Room, recently with the redevelopment of the Gilchrist. I hopefully try and aim to spread awareness more about this. Right now, societies could also become the seminar room. I want to make sure that societies are able to, they're more aware of that through the monthly newsletters, through SRC social media, whether it may be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatnot. Just ways to make sure that societies actually know about this and how they can actually utilize that. Maybe that could be one way of tackling it.
Cool. You mentioned new VCS awards, so these extra categories you mentioned, such as like Best Society President of the Year, would this be added to the existing ceremony or a whole new separate ceremony?
To be fair, I think that this should be added to the existing ceremony.
Cool.
And, would you like me to elaborate further? Or?
Oh, you can carry on, absolutely.
Yeah. So, to be fair, I think that this should be held within the same ceremony, and I think that this would be a much needed change because, VCS Awards, although yes, it stands for Volunteering Clubs and Societies, and it's been standing for currently so long, for about 11, 12 years. And to this date, there are certain individual achievements which sometimes go unrecognized. There are some, better collaborative events which sometimes are not as extensively recognized. So I do hope to change that by bringing newer categories because societies often feel that, we cannot nominate ourselves for category X or category Y, or because we're not that big of a society, we cannot really do that. So by doing that, I hopefully will get more engagement with the VCS Awards.
Yeah. So in your manifesto about Freshers Week, you write about putting on an amazing Freshers Week, which obviously seems like an obvious goal. So can you elaborate a bit on what this would entail?
Well, this is actually something that every VPSA puts in their manifesto. I'll put on an amazing Freshers Week. So this was more of like an eye grab or intention grab, but in reality is the changes that I want to implement are what's said after. Would you like me to go through that?
Yeah, specifically cross-campus events during Freshers Week. How would you what do you mean by cross-campus events and how would you seek to facilitate this?
So that will usually be more, I meant towards that for Freshers Week. More emphasis on that because usually during Freshers Week you tend to have unions who run their own events and it might be a little bit difficult of doing that. But with this Freshers Week, it was very evident that it was a cross-campus effort and that made it really, really successful. However, since there were not that many events that were cross-campus, I felt that the fair was always a really successful thing. But I'm really certain that there were other events, though I've not personally attended, but I mean that there could be events such as, the talent show which I've mentioned, or perhaps something more of like a fundraiser or some form of like something where a mixer which can get everyone involved, things that are more like trying to get the wider student community engaged.
Yeah. How would you have the SRC compete with, say, GU, GUSA, QMU at Freshers Week?
Freshers Week?
Yes, for events and interest and engagement.
As in how we could be more better than them, or?
Yeah, and even get students interested in the SRC from the get-go, because obviously you guys don't have a bar and things like that, so...
That's very true. So us as a student body, we're kind of unique in the sense that we're not a union per se, we're more of like a first information point. I think that this mainly has to do with how we engage with students personally, because when they first come in, they see us, we're like the information, the welcome point, that's it. We give you your band, you go. But I think there are different ways, I thought about changing the content a bit more, making it more interactive, rather than just sitting there having tea and coffee being served all day. You might have like this kind of spin the wheel thing where you might win a prize or something.
Yeah.
Or kind of integrate that part of, make something more interactive rather than just being just something so stale and just us offering the same thing over and over again. Maybe change it slightly and market ourselves better to show that we've changed, if you get what I mean, yeah?
So you mentioned creating a Give It a Go week, having that go alongside like clubs and societies and having them accommodate that into their own schedules, so to speak. So how would you get clubs and societies to actually incorporate Give It a Go?
Right. So the whole idea behind Give It a Go started with this Freshers Week, and what that meant was that during the underattended days of Freshers Week, there's obviously been a decline in overall engagement, and Give It a Go meant that students could come in, give different activities they've never tried before, a taste of how it is. It was really successful, it went really well, but there are two things to consider in mind. for this year. What really went well, it obviously went really well, but how I can improve upon it for the future is it was only used in SRC buildings, so it was only in the McIntyre, which meant that societies didn't really have that much bigger of a space. And number two, Freshers Week is usually not attended by everybody because some people usually arrive late, sometimes the timings conflict, things like that. So, and even having that give it a go on 2 days meant that this really limited the number of clubs and societies participating in that. So with me, what I would like to do is instead make it its own week, usually either week 3 or week 4 of the academic semester. And with that would ensure that everybody's back, workload is not that heavy. People then are able to, try different clubs and societies without, having that big of a hassle. This means there will be even more clubs and societies willing to participate, have it maybe in one of the unions. So that is really
this is something you'd contact the other unions with as well?
Absolutely.
Great, cool. How would you integrate RAG and the volunteering service? So how would that work?
So the way as it currently stands is that RAG has a really, really wide general committee member, and I'd like to kind of reduce that by letting people kind of, work on what certain projects they want to do. And I'd perhaps go on by doing that is integrating it with the SVSS website. So if you go on there, they have a specific section on like projects you want to work on, click on that, work on it. So what I would suggest we can do is that us as a RAG service is advertise that way ahead, and then make sure that we get a number of volunteers, work on it, that's it, so forth. So that's how I usually go on about it.
Cool. Do you believe that the SRC has a close enough relationship with its affiliated clubs and societies as it currently stands?
I'd certainly say it's been improving, but there's definitely ways for improvement even further. So as of recently, the societies mixer is a thing that the current VPSA has just recently started this year, and this really meant for clubs and societies, gave them better engagement, better opportunities, things like that. I don't recall, even though I was a VP of a Middle Eastern society back in 2018, of any mixers of any sort. So maybe there was something, but I wasn't really aware of. However, the clubs and societies mixer certainly improved the relationship, and I think it will continue to grow as long as we continuously keep taking in feedback, acknowledge that, and show that we can actually change as an SRC.
This is quite another problem. The SRC gets accused of this quite a lot, is that it doesn't publicise its events and campaigns enough. So what will you do to publicise SRC events and make people actually interested in attending them, out with their own student interests as they are?
Well, okay, that's a little bit of a difficult one, because we as the SRC obviously try as much as we can, and there are obviously a certain number of limitations where one can exceed. So it's the way that things go around the university is really, it's mainly word of mouth. So even though that some of our events might have a really high Facebook reach or things like that, but some of them might really stay underattended. So I think that the whole word of mouth thing is something that not only I as a sabbatical officer, but as 4th of the sabbatical officers need to work on, to ensure that students get the word out there, show that we're actually committed, we can do change, we can advertise the campaigns, because as it currently stands we are utilizing all of our social media channels, even the website. So for me, this is the way I look at it. It's mainly word of mouth, how students feel about certain events, perceive certain things, and I feel that this is also not solely their own efforts. It's the efforts of all the sabbatical officers in the team. They'd be all willing to take care, go out there and spread it through word of mouth. So